I'm getting ready to go to the farmer's market, and it is a beautiful, beautiful Saturday. I'm currently reading Heiða. This is A Shepherd at the Edge of the World by Steinnun, Sigurðardóttir, and I picked this up when I was in Iceland. This is a memoir, autobiography, selection of vignettes about Heiða, who was a former model, and she lives in the very isolated farm in Iceland. It's her family farm, and she ends up unintentionally and very reluctantly being involved in politics and going to these public meetings to basically prevent her land from being bought up and turned into like a hydroelectric power plant. This is just incredible. It feels like you're just having coffee with a friend and they're telling you stories of their life. I am currently on page 36, so I'm very, very new into this, but it says like Heiða at a poetry meetup. She also writes poetry, which is really sweet. The first section in here is called Summer. The opening was about tractors, and then there's Farming Begins. I adore this. I've always loved being on a farm. I was a horse girl growing up. I went to school on a farm. I spent summers on farms. Being in Iceland really just made me feel so at home and at peace. Even more of a desire and a yearning and a deep longing and want to be out on the countryside and on the quiet of a farm again. I really miss that. There are so many sheep in Iceland, and it just made me think like, oh my gosh, I would love to know a person's day in the life. And then boom, I found this book, which is like a year in the life or a life in the life, and she has a flock of over 500 sheep, and this is just so inspiring and I love it. I love how casual the writing is. I just love reading about people's lives. Like, it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary, quote unquote, or anything over the top and grandiose and purple prosy. Like, it really is just her talking about what it was like growing up and what her father is like and working at fishing villages and going to boarding school, like a foray into her modeling career. And it's just wonderful. And also the feeling of this book, the physical, tangible feeling of this book is probably one of the most delicious. It's so floppy. Like, this is, it's just divine. So this is what I'm currently reading. I cannot wait to read more. Like, this is something that I just really want to sit down with and devour, but also take my time because I don't want it to end. And this is just the shit that I love. Oh, did that just get brighter? I'm also currently listening to Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I have not read Walden before, and I've known what it is, and I am listening to it as an audiobook, which I don't think is the best format for Walden. I feel like I need my own physical copy and I need to sit with it and I need to annotate it. But I think for my first go around, listening to it has been really interesting because my ears just perk up at certain points. Something really poignant. I mean, the whole book is poignant, but like a certain line or phrase or section will really, 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 really resonate with me. And I just am running to write it down, and I'm pausing it and I'm writing and transcribing. It is so incredible that someone can condense such big existential philosophical thoughts into 6 words, into a tiny sentence that feels so like that harpoon to the heart, that relatability, but also awe that writers give me that feeling. With Heiða and Walden, intentionally, unintentionally, the phase of life I'm in has clearly been F off into the woods. F off society, let's go live in a cabin and live isolated and quiet and really meditate on the meaning of life and what I'm capable of. Having time to be philosophical away from society standards, whether society as a whole or how I or us as a society have interpreted society's rules and like what we should be doing. I think reading these texts just feels so like a big hug to me. Like, yes, question the system, man. Question. Go out into the unknown. Go and live alone. Go and live away from things and become more self-sustaining or learn more. Gather stories from other people who have been brave enough to do these things. And, or maybe it's just their way of life. Like for Heiða, like she grew up in this community and for her it does feel normal. It doesn't feel so. That being said, it's so cool for me to see how these books seem to, when I find the right book and I'm reading things that feel in tandem with my life, how they are parallel narratives to my own existence. And I finally just grew my first tomato. I've always wanted to grow tomatoes. They're my favorite and I'm so proud. I don't know, I feel really good. Yeah, let's go to the farmer's market. Thank you so incredibly much for being here. It's gonna be a really wonderful next few days. farmer's market haul. I am back. Winston has just woken up from a nap, so he's gonna be very excited and sassy. But I was able to grab this entire beautiful bushel. And I also got a pint of sweet Michigan cherries. Michigan is really well known for their cherries. Here's Winston. So I grabbed a croissant. There are a few little like tiny coffee shops inside of the farmer's market, which is so delightful. And then I read a little bit more of Heiða, and I am now on page 53, chapter called 23rd of June. I adore this. This was so nice. For the past few months, I think in May I started it. I started doing the artist's way. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, but basically it is a practice of getting in touch with yourself and being really like strict and rigorous with creating and being an artist and such. And I have not read it. I do have her other book, The Listening Path. What I have been doing are the morning pages. And then I've also been trying to take myself out on one artist date a week. And that is literally anything that's an hour long or more. I filmed a few of them where I go for really long nature walks, where I go to the beach and I read. And then today and for my week, I decided to take myself out for a little croissant and sit and read this at the farmer's market, and that was so nice. And then just honestly walking around the farmer's market, I saw so many beautiful things, like just being aware and present. This farmer's market also has two main booksellers. I was fighting myself. I was like, you do not need these, but it honestly just felt so good. And I was like, these books feel so me. And it's such a treat to find that. So I walked away with two books, and I'm so excited. So the first one is Victim of the Aurora. This is by Thomas Keneally, author of Schindler's List, which I have not read. For a whopping $5, vintage edition from 1985. Love this cover. And obviously, we may know at this point, I love The Endurance, Shackleton. I just read The Ice People by Renee Barchevel, and it was one of my favorite books of this entire year. And this is like a murder mystery set in the bitter Antarctic winter of 1910. In the waning years of the Edwardian era, a group of gentlemen adventurers, hear background noise, Winston is indeed grooming himself right behind. A group of gentlemen adventurers wait out a raging blizzard in the close perpetual darkness, poised for a strike at the South Pole. As the storm lifts, a new challenge faces Captain Sir Eugene Stewart to discover which of his 25 carefully chosen men has become a murderer. It's written from the first-person perspective, and it is a man's retelling of what happened in the Antarctic from his diary, essentially. But now we find out he is in his late 80s, I believe, and he's in like a nursing home. So the memories are wavering a little bit. I saw this in Barney's version by Mordecai Rickler, which was one of my favorite novels of last year, where the main protagonist is older and they're reflecting on their life, and you're kind of seeing their mental deterioration as they're writing. Ooh, this is so exciting for me. So I picked this up and I'm very, very geeked out about it. So I got this huge, massive, beautiful edition. This excites me and intrigues me and geeks me out so much, and I just really need, maybe that will be my thing for this fall and winter, is to like fully envelop myself, have a personal curriculum of learning even more of Sartre's work and existentialism, and actually just sitting and finishing one of his books or collections of essays. I think this will be my fourth book on existentialism, and I would love to like actually finish one. I read them in little bursts and I love everything I read, but I just would love to commit and sit down and like really sink my teeth into this. So I did end up picking these up. I'm gonna scan film. It's gonna be wonderful. I have, I think 4 or 5 rolls I need to scan. Some of it is for work, some of it's my personal life. So I have a lot to catch up on, but it's a beautiful Saturday. So I've been brewing my own kombucha for over 2 years now, I think. One of my scobies wasn't doing well, and so I decided to kind of start fresh, and I have a baby SCOBY way down in here, if you're familiar with kombucha, and I was really nervous how it would do because it's such a small baby, and it made this incredible, huge gallon mason jar size baby off of the baby. This is just very exciting and kind of part of my, like, not homestead vlog, but just like making my own kombucha, not buying bottles, like making your own. And if you are able to find a SCOBY, this is actually such an easy process to make your own. It's once every 3 weeks. You like take the SCOBY out and brew some hot water, tea, sugar, boom, you have kombucha. It's so easy. I just put this in my closet. So I'm just really excited, and I'm so happy I have 2 babies now, which means technically I can do 2 different jars of kombucha going at the same time. But honestly, that's really overwhelming to me. That's like too much kombucha, and I will not get through it in time. I don't drink enough kombucha for that. But this is just really exciting. Over the past year or so, I have been making my own granola bars, and that's mainly to like reduce the amount of single-use plastic wrap. Also to save money, like buying these ingredients in bulk and then spending half an hour to make granola bars, I found was just like so much more cost efficient as well than buying like fancy granola bars. They're no-bake granola bars, y'all. It's literally just oats, peanut butter, and honey or maple syrup. I oscillate between using like honey and maple syrup. And then I also add walnuts or dark chocolate chips to mine. The peanut butter and honey together, just kind of warm them up on the stove just until they're like mixed and creamy, and then you just add oats. I also add in my blend like flaxseed and chia seeds. So it's like packed with good stuff and protein, and they're so freaking yummy. Winston and I are here to talk about some books and to wrap up this vlog. Oh gosh, he's going for his tail. Does anyone else have a cat that like deep throats their tail? He really goes to town on it. Okay, let's talk about some books, because I did finish 2 books. The 2 books I was reading for this vlog, but then I've also started 2 more. I finished reading Heiða. I adored this. This was so wonderful, really refreshing, and very, very different. It's more of like a conversation. It flows. It's like you're hanging out with a really eccentric aunt who's like running around the house, like making a cup of coffee, and then it's like picking up a random thing, being like, oh, my sister made this. Oh, and then also I have to go down to the barn, and then the other winter I did this, and then, oh, I have to go cut the hay, and I gotta go go cut the bales. It's a little bit all over the place, but it is broken down into the 4 different seasons, and we are just following what her life is like. Anxiety over the weather, about volcanoes erupting and what that would do to her flock. This is honestly just so fascinating, and I loved getting an insight into the real life of a shepherd, of a farmer. She runs this farm all by herself, and she's also fighting this power plant from being built on her land. And it is just exhausting to read about how much this poor woman has to do and will do to defend her land, and how much she has to do and how much labor she has to put into keeping her flock alive, how repetitive the work is, but also every day is a completely different day. It is so incredibly fascinating, and I loved reading this. But overall, I did learn the ailments of certain sheep, what can happen to them if they're not taken care of. Horrific. Honestly, it's really, really horrific. It was really challenging to read at parts because it just really made me feel sick to my stomach, what you have to do to make sure your animals aren't in pain. But Heiða is just such a passionate woman. She has a very short temper. She's very passionate. She loves animals so much, but she doesn't like people. Honestly, this, as well as Walden, which I did finish, I do want to talk about, it's just the introvert manifestos. I really loved it. I loved this like sense of independence, self-sufficiency, growing your own food, living out in the middle of nowhere, reflections and philosophies of, living on the outskirts of the world looking in was really interesting. So Heiða here is talking about her land being infringed upon by these capitalist corporate goons, and they're trying to make a hydroelectric power station, and they're really putting a lot of pressure on her. She also volunteers at a national park, so she's always going for that. And then during like early spring, she goes and travels all over the entire country doing like pregnancy scanning for ewes. And I'm like, does this woman stop? Does she rest? She was basically elected by her peers to represent them for the left green movement. So she's on the ballot, and she says, "It's impossible to refuse the chance to be in a position of influence in matters that are so important to me: environmental conservation, agriculture, equal rights of every sort, gender, people of all races, all religions. For me personally, this also has to do with my not wanting to die without having lived, with wanting to go for it and seize opportunities. This is an opportunity to live life to the fullest. Maybe it's a sign of my restlessness, my longing for something, to want more, to keep going onward as far as I can go. Whether this is ambition, I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with that word to apply it to myself. It's more about pursuing the things that are close to my heart." Then there are a few more lines, and then it goes into, "There's one thing perhaps that drives me most strongly, my loathing for the attitude of those who sit at their kitchen tables criticizing everything and everyone, who have the answers to everything but aren't willing to step up and do something about it. I don't want to remain sitting at that kitchen table." I adored this. I'm so happy I picked it up while I was in Iceland, that I can read about these places and the livelihoods of people who actually live there and what it's like day to day today. So I highly recommend. I loved this. It does get pretty repetitive. She does talk about similar topics over and over again, but I think that also drives the point of the like quote unquote monotony of this work. Like, it is just brutal, hard work. Oh goodness. Oh, Winston! I just learned so incredibly much, and I adored that. I feel like there's so much more I can talk about this, but overall, I just really loved it. This morning, I did finish listening to Walden. If you're not familiar, Henry David Thoreau was a very strong proponent of self-sufficiency, independence, living for yourself, living off the land. So he was kind of like a philosopher. He was also kind of just like an activist in many different ways. Very smart, intelligent man, and also a writer. And so this documents his entire first year of living in this cabin that he builds by himself in the woods and on a lake called Walden. And similarly to Heiða, this is just a catalog of like, I grew this food and I sold it for this amount of money, and then I went to town and then I did this and then I reaped the land. But then also it will just drop this most beautiful philosophical imagery and discussion about life and what is the purpose of life. Giving back to nature is a really big element in both of these books, and just this philosophy of like the world and the nature will outlive you. it is going to outlive all of us. It has been here for so long. We are going to die. That land is still going to be there. And it's like this beautiful meditation on nature. And even though it changes and it's scary and unpredictable and beautiful, how just being so present in it and working with the land, working with your hands, honestly just working, how it can better your life, better your mental health, better the world, better the planet, better nature, and how easily it is to then criticize where the rest of society is and what they're doing. And what I found really interesting in Walden is that, it was written in, I want to say around 1850, but he was like, was man really meant to move 30 miles an hour? We're just a gossip mill. People are just running to and fro wanting the best and latest gossip. That's so funny to me because he's just referencing newspapers. And it's so funny to think about like the rude awakening that someone like Henry David Thoreau would have if he was just manifested in this day and age in 2026 of like how we consume media, what capitalism is like now, how much it's so much worse, how we move way faster than 30 miles an hour now. And he was already such a big critic of this. He was already such a big proponent of like, what are we doing as a society? Like, I hate all of this. So again, a very big introvert manifesto, and it was amazing. I just don't think listening to it was the right medium, which is okay. Like, I think it's okay to sometimes experience books in the medium that it wasn't meant for, but like I just really, really wanted to see this one through. And I think if I am able to get my hands on a copy, I would love to actually annotate a physical edition, but for now I'm very content. One of my favorite passages was specifically about mornings. As someone who is a morning person myself, like early riser, I feel the best when I wake up early in the morning. My mornings are like so sacred to me, and that's the best way for me to like be a part of the world, focus on myself, to look inward, and also to be outside before the rest of the world kind of wakes up is something that I've always loved. Even as a kid, that was like my favorite thing to do, was like wake up really early before the rest of my family was awake and be outside. The lines that he had in there were just like so profound about like those who, waste the morning, waste the day. Like there were just some really wonderful quotes, and like so many of his words can definitely be taken into these like bite-sized chunks, and you can put them on a plaque and put them on your wall. Like, live, laugh, love. Like, it's just so refreshing to read. His descriptions of nature are incredible. And then the conclusion was the perfect summary to the first year of Walden, to this memoir, to this experience. It was so beautifully written, and it really encapsulated everything that he had talked about in an even more beautiful way. Like, he really distilled all of those thoughts that he already touched on, and to this beautiful conclusion that was so, like, every line I was like, damn, that's so good. Just so refreshing to read pieces of literature and / memoirs like Heiða and like Walden. And I love that I unintentionally was reading both of them at the same time. I think that's just where my interests were at that time. So what I'm currently reading, right when I got back from Iceland, my fiance's family had rented a cottage. We just went up for one night, and it was on the beach. It was so beautiful. And my future mother-in-law was reading the new David Sedaris, and she showed me a few passages that she thought were really funny and that I'd resonate with, and I was like, I need a copy of this. And when I looked on Libby to put a hold on the audiobook, because a David Sedaris book as an audiobook is my preferred method of reading it because I adore his voice so much, there was a 26-week waiting list. I canceled that so fast. I was like, never mind. So I put a hold out for the physical edition, and I got it like almost right away, right when I got back from that little cottage trip. I got my edition. So I just started this last night, and I am already exactly 100 pages in because I can just hear David Sedaris' voice in my head. This is The Land and Its People, his newest release, and oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. I adore David Sedaris. This is exactly what I needed after some like really heavy sheep grief, honestly. So this and the current audiobook I'm listening to are adding so much needed levity to my reading and just humor. And I've needed that, and it feels so refreshing. So yeah, I have another little nonfiction memoir going on here. The Land and Its People is amazing. I'm adoring this. I have no notes. I don't even know what to say. I just love David Sedaris so much. I also started an audiobook. I found this book when I was filming my How Many Books Can I Read While I'm Sick video. It's called Devour by Kurt Phillips Williams. Kurt something. Yo, this is bananas and I love it. So what intrigued me about this book is it had all of the hot topic buzzwords that I personally love, the tropes that I love. So it had a prehistoric sea creature. Already you have prehistoric and you have the ocean. I'm hooked already. I love that. Then we have cruise ships. We have a casino. We have the East Coast. And then it also referenced how this creature was like de-thawed from the Antarctic ice. And I was like, wham bam. Those are like 6 of my favorite words. Started listening to it. This is one of those, like they say, like it's a movie in your mind. So there are Foley artists that do sound effects, waves crashing, footsteps, keys jingling, and there are different voice actors for every single character. So this is a huge cast for this one, and it is so fun. But this is also one of the most dude bro books I've read in a long time. It is a creature feature dude bro man book, and I'm so intrigued, and it's still so fun. But I'm like, this is insane, guys. Like, how many? Okay. So basically, we start this novel with a group of Inuits, and they are hunting, and that's when they see a sea creature coming out of like the Arctic ice. And we flash to a fishing charter, and there we have a captain and his friend. They receive a distress signal from another ship, a scientific ship that is going down, and they're like, shit, we gotta go help them. They're going over there. Then all of a sudden we flash to a third location, which is a casino cruise ship. We have this very unctuous guy named Frankie who talks with a really thick Boston accent. Hey guys, immediately is having fist fights with everyone. He's very pompous, like just such a fun character to love, hate, or hate love. I don't know. Essentially, it is all of these dudes realizing that there is a sea monster, and they are constantly fist fighting with each other. They are just getting in brawls. There's a lot of blackjack and poker. It's like, wow, that is so dude bro-y. There's so much happening. And now where I'm at, over halfway through of this audiobook, I've been flying through it today just because I've spent the whole day cleaning and cooking. The newest bro dude element that has just been added to this book is the cartel, the mafia. I mean, we got the Boston, we got the mafia, we got a guy breaking another guy's bones, we got him being best friends with his Swedish bodyguard that he calls Thor. It's incredible, honestly. It's incredible. There's not enough sea monster yet. I want a little bit more of the monster, but it's just really funny with this like action alive storytelling. There's like suspenseful music happening when there's a fist fight, and it's just so over the top. So that's what I've been reading. Fabulous books, friends. Honestly, fabulous books. I've been reading really wonderful books. This makes me so incredibly happy. And I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. I've been talking for a really long time, but thank you so incredibly much for being here. If you want to leave a comment but you're not sure what to say, feel free to let us know what your favorite introvert manifesto book is. Or let us know if you're an introvert, you're an extrovert. Would you live out in the woods? Where would you live? Put something about that. I think that's really interesting. What kind of introvert manifesto book do you like? What is your favorite? Or if you have like a favorite memoir that kind of resonates on those same lines, definitely let us know in the comments below. And if you don't want to be perceived in that way, I completely understand. Please feel free to share some emojis that describe like maybe where you would want to go off the grid, or the book that you would want to recommend us. But thank you so incredibly much for being here, friends. I so appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you all again very soon for my next video. Until then, stay cozy, my friends. Bye.